Everyone listening to this, go change your profile to say something like, I help companies reduce cybersecurity risk. Ask me how.
And for gosh sakes, put a decent photo on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, it should not be ghetto. You should actually put a photo no matter what.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you are like, I'm getting into cybersecurity. I'm a secret hacker. I'm not going to connect with you if you don't have a photo.
Yeah.
And that most people are that way, right? Because they think you're a spammer or whatever.
Us hiring managers, we're not just hiring you for what you can do, but we're hiring you for your personality because we want you to be a good fit with our team.
You never know where these things are going to lead. Even just general person branding on LinkedIn, you don't know where that stuff's going to lead. Like, for example, I look for people that are willing to educate and help somebody else.
Hey everyone, just wanted to come on and give you a quick heads up that this week's episode actually contains some profanity. So if you're listening with children, this might be an episode you have to listen to with your headphones on or something like that. So with that said, let's roll to this week's episode. Well, welcome to the show, Ken. Do you mind taking a few minutes and kind of telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it, and hopefully share some good information for the audience today. Ken Underhill, for those that don't know me, I don't know if there's anyone in the world these days that doesn't, honestly. Whether good or bad, who knows? Yeah. I mean, your typical kind of IT to cybersecurity transition, honestly, right? I mean, prior to that, I came from a medicine background of pediatric nursing, special operations medic, and all the fun that goes with those things. Came from kind of IT, help desk, IT networking was really my first job. And then the security stuff just kind of, I mean, way back then, it wasn't called cybersecurity. So just kind of flowed and added more things to it and got to where I am now. I mean, I've worked a variety of roles, analyst, pen tester, moved into management, senior leadership, executive level, had my own stuff. So and then I guess that's a good segue into what do I do now. Recently exited a company called CyberLife, which was my company. And now just kind of, at the time we're filming this, just kind of hanging out and doing the podcast and that sort of stuff.
When I first came across you, I just was instantly taken back. I'm like, I gotta have this guy on my channel. It just seems like you've kind of done so much in the cybersecurity space. You kind of have a really broad understanding of it. I feel, that a lot of people, when they're looking to get into cybersecurity, like they know they want to get into cybersecurity, but they don't know why or what they want to do. Do you mind kind of speaking to some of like the different diverse paths within cybersecurity, all the different niches?
Yeah, so that'd be like an 8-hour podcast. But I will say that I've got a bunch of videos, I think like 20 or 30 career videos over on my YouTube channel. So shameless plug, just search my name, Ken Underhill, or it's YouTube at CyberLife TV. I think it's a channel name. I could share it with you after the fact. But but just search my name on YouTube and you'll find me there. But I've got a bunch of career videos of like, what is a GRC analyst? What is sales engineer? So there's a ton of different job opportunities you can do in the cybersecurity realm. It doesn't always have to be, oftentimes people think the hands on the keyboard, I'm a hacker. And like pen testing is like a very, very small sub niche of what's available job wise out there. And I'll say another thing, a lot of the cybersecurity jobs have cybersecurity nowhere in the job title. A lot of jobs are not called SOC analysts, but they've got SOC analyst skills and responsibilities. So understanding like the skills for a role is much better for you job seekers out there than understanding a job title, because some companies have I've had some really weird job titles in the past. I won't share them on here, but basically it was like you're doing a pen tester job, but it says nothing about that. I think the other aspect on that, and I know we're getting a little off subject, but the other aspect on that is a lot of companies will list specific skills that are like cybersecurity engineer skills, but the job title is like SOC analyst. So you have to figure out like what is actually cybersecurity engineering skills, or sales engineer or sales professional, whatever. But there's a lot of non-traditional jobs in the cybersecurity realm that all of you out there right now could probably go get a job tomorrow, but you're so focused on I got to be a SOC analyst or I got to be a pen tester that you're not. Realistically, those jobs, especially SOC analyst, everybody's going for those. You're competing against thousands of people for the exact same job, and I guess if you want to do that and wait a year or two to get something great. For those that actually want to pay their bills, my suggestion is like look at some of the non-traditional paths. And again, the YouTube channel is the best thing because we could go forever on that stuff. The other thing I'll say about job searching though, LinkedIn, Indeed, Dice, Monster, whatever job board you think you want to apply to, don't do that. Again, you're competing against thousands of people, right? So the best way to do it, at least in my opinion, and for the people that have had success, of course, networking, number one thing, right? People, if they know you want to be a SOC analyst and you're a quality person, like you've actually properly networked and you're not just take, gimme. So networking real quick, mindset is always, what can I give this other person? So if you were trying to network with Dakota or myself, instead of saying, what can I get from them? How can they help me? How can I help them, right? Maybe I can come on his show and I can say, hey, I'm brand new, but maybe I could talk about some things of transitioning, to a cybersecurity career. Maybe that can help him on his podcast, or maybe I see that he sucks at video editing, and maybe I can help him with that, right? Because I was a video editor before, and I'm trying to transition. So always think about, like, what can I give to this person or their audience, and that's how you network. No matter who you're trying to network with, that's how you network, and that's how you get people like me saying, oh, you know what? Let me look more into this person. Oh, they said they were looking for a SOC analyst job, and so when someone reaches out to me and says, hey, do you know anybody good for a SOC analyst job? Even if I've never worked with you, you're top of mind because you've been coming in with that giving mindset. So now real quick, back on your original question, which again, for anyone that's ever seen me on a podcast, I will go for hours. But hopefully it's all helpful for people.
Yeah.
Finding jobs, I just told you don't use LinkedIn, anything like that. I mean, you can use that, but just understand you're competing against hundreds, if not thousands of people for the exact same job. You're probably not going to get an interview unless you really wow somebody. So the way to do that is go on like the major cybersecurity conference websites. So like Black Hat USA, for example, is a good one. Look at the sponsor list, the company sponsor list. Look at the lower tier level of sponsors. So basically the smaller companies, if you will, or the more of the startup companies, and look at their open positions on their website. So yeah, it takes a lot of work. Oh my gosh, you got to do some work. I mean, finding a job's work, right? I think people just these days, like with social media, people think everything, you're going to be a millionaire overnight.
Mr. Johnson, you've become a millionaire overnight.
No, it takes a ton of work to become wealthy.
Absolutely.
A ton of work. I'm telling you from experience, it takes a ton of work. But with the job searching stuff, go to the company websites, look at open jobs, and look at the skills they're asking for. Again, the job title, it's probably not going to be anything related to what you'll actually do. So that's the best way. And the people that have actually listened to me, that's always a challenge, right? People actually listening and doing it. But the people that have listened to me, there's been, I think I posted a stat maybe a while back, but there's probably like maybe 5% that haven't gotten an interview at the time I posted like that thing I posted. I might have been a comment or something like that. Most people, because they're smaller companies, right? So a lot of people don't know the name of the company. They don't know about them unless they go to the conference and meet them. So your competition is, I mean, you've got maybe 10 or 20 people applying for the job. You got a much better chance of getting an interview. Even if you have no experience that they want, they might create a position for you because they're a startup. They probably got some funding. They probably got, they can create a position for you and let you grow into that position. It's just, I mean, if you're trying to go work at Google, like, good luck. Right? Like even if I apply to Google,
right,
if I just tried the traditional apply for the job posting, it's not happening for me. Right. But I know people at Google, so I can just say, hey, dude, I want to work at Google. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, or they might be like, we don't want that dude. Who knows? But anyways, the best route, in my opinion, is look at the conference websites, look at the sponsor list. If networking's not working for you, go that route I just mentioned, because I think that's going to give you a lot of opportunities. I don't know all the stuff. I mean, there's a ton of startups in the cybersecurity world. There's a ton of venture capital funding pushed out there. I mean, I hear about new startups all the time. There's a website, I'll share it with you after the fact, a website I have found where you can see like some startups for AI and cybersecurity and maybe software development, whatever. But it's kind of a list of some startups. That might be another tool for you to find those companies.
Yeah, we'll link that up in the description. And, we're not even 10 minutes into this interview and you're dropping some major advice. That's awesome. That is one thing I've never actually even thought about, one different path. I do career coaching, and, I always say, applying for jobs is a ton of work. You're not going to get anywhere if you just kind of the spray and pray and you just throw your resume out to every single job. You're just going to get thrown away. It takes a lot of work. I tell people, every job you're applying for, you need to custom tailor that resume for that organization you're applying for. But finding the jobs that not everyone's going for, that's even another level. That's amazing. I think networking is like one of the most important tools in this field to getting at least that entry level job, because, or really any job in the cybersecurity field. One thing that frustrates me, because I hate it this way, but it's not, I don't think it's ever going to change. So many times it's not what you know, it's who you know in this field. And having those connections and, going to those networking events, those conferences, or just the local meetups, if you go on sites like meetup.com and you'll see there's like, a red teamers meetup at your local bar or something like that. those connections can really become invaluable, I feel, in the field.
So there's a couple things you mentioned and all that I want to unpack. So of course we'll get to the networking in just a second, but you mentioned customization of your resume. I'd like to encourage everyone to take it a step further, because it's hard on your resume to like fully convey your value and kind of like why you want this role. So that's where that cover letter comes in. Now, that's difficult. Most of us aren't writers. I mean, I BS'd papers in college just so I get through them. So, it is what it is, right? Most of us are not the greatest writers in the world. So my suggestion is use something like ChatGPT, not to copy and paste by any means, because you literally could tell it's ChatGPT. Some people leave the emojis in there. I'm like, gosh, at least take some effort, at least something. But take it as an idea. Say like, look, based on this job description, write me a sample cover letter that will cover all these areas, and how I could cover the areas, whatever. You don't have to give it any of your information, and then take that as a template and then plug in your own examples of past jobs, past experience, transferable skills, whatever it is. Because we've all got a lot of life skills. That's that transferable skills from other roles and just life in general. If you're breathing right now, you've lived life somewhat and you've got some transferable skill, whatever that is. And so just, use that as a template, though, to guide you as kind of crafting the cover letter and making it better and polishing it. And that's why, as you mentioned, the spray and pray approach doesn't work, because everyone just throws out a resume. I'll talk about resumes here in a second, but I don't care about your resume. I don't care about your cover letter to some extent. I could tell people that are spraying and praying, and I could tell the people that took the time to be methodical, that really want to be here, whether or not they're qualified. Because again, I may, as a hiring manager, I might have a little extra budget. I can create a job for you, even if it's part-time, so you can get experience on your resume to get something else later, or that we can eventually get budget for you to come on full-time. So there's a mindset out there, I think, that I've seen in the past 5 or 6 years in the industry of like the easy button, right? That Staples easy button that we all wish we really had in cybersecurity, like, ooh, the incident's gone, type of thing. That all these vendors sell us on, like, just press a button, it'll be gone. Yeah. You press the button and all hell breaks loose. You're like, oh my God, that didn't work.
Exactly.
But I think people have a misconception, and a lot of that is both the academic side and education side of saying, look, if there's trillions of jobs open, there's a huge gap. No, there's not a talent gap. I'm going to break that news right now. There's not a talent gap at the entry level. There's an abundance at the entry level, right? And that's what all of you are trying to get into. So you've got a lot of competition. The talent gap is at the senior level, because senior level people don't want to make the 20 grand a year they're trying to pay them. So obviously you can't get somebody at senior level when you're not paying them enough, right? Let's be real. So that's the talent gap thing real quick. I was talking about resume stuff, I think. So resumes. I personally, and I know I'm different, other people are going to be screaming at this podcast when they listen to it. I don't care about your certifications. I don't care about your college degrees. I don't really care about generic stuff. I don't because I'm a poor kid, right? I came from poverty. I didn't have college degrees. I didn't have certifications. Like, that stuff came later in my career. So that wasn't me, right? And I understand in government space, certs, for certain job roles, you gotta play the game. What we're talking about in this podcast is private sector, because that's where the vast majority of jobs are, realistically. Most of you out there have bad credit, or you've got some shady background in criminal stuff. You can't qualify for security clearance, is what I'm getting at. Anyways, even if you wanted to work for the government, right? So most of you are going to be private sector, especially if you're outside the U.S. You're going to be private sector usually, and this is the information we're sharing on this. But anyways, for resume stuff, be very specific. So I shared, I think it was a couple days ago now, I shared on my LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn. And I think we're going to get to that later, but look me up on LinkedIn. I did a post where I basically took one resume bullet, which was, I think, like I scanned for vulnerabilities, something very generic that a lot of you do, which frustrates me. And I made it specific about what you actually did, right? And so with the resume, be as specific as possible, even if you can only get one really good specific resume bullet. That's awesome. In my opinion, I don't want 30 things I got to read through that are crap. Like, be specific. Some of you I've looked at a lot of resumes. Some of you have some really, really good information that I know is in there, but you've got a generic resume bullet that your career counselor at college told you to do it that way.
Yep.
Real quick, if someone has never worked a cybersecurity job in their life, why in the hell would you listen to somebody that's never worked that job you want to get? Honestly, like, just take a step back, and that's just not for cybersecurity, like anything. Like, you would not, hopefully, you would not come to Ken for open heart surgery. I've never done open heart surgery in my life. I've watched one back when I wanted to become a physician. And they basically told me, I went in the OR and they said, stand right there in that little box near the anesthesiologist. And if you're going to pass out, whatever you do, fall backwards. Don't fall into the patient. and shut your mouth and don't ask any questions. That was the instructions. And it was like I think like a 4-hour surgery, doing this is way back in the day, right? I don't know how it is now. They probably just click a button, the Staples Easy button, and it,
Yep.
magically fixes everything. But back then, a lot of people tended to pass out, I guess, in the OR. I didn't. I was there watching the whole time like, oh, this looks so neat. And of course the surgeons were talking about Burger King, they were going to get after this procedure and all that stuff. Anyways, the point there is I've never done open heart surgery. If I was telling you how to get a job as an open heart surgeon and how to do your resume, you should give me the side eye because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Same thing with your career counselors at college and stuff and the boot camps and stuff. Great people. They mean well. They're trying to do the best they can with what they have. But if they've never worked a cybersecurity job in their life, they're not the right people. They're the right people to give you a foundation for your resume, but they're not the right people to listen to actually get a resume that's going to get you a job, right? Because I've looked at some of the content these places push out. It's crap, right? It's 1990s resume advice. If you're not from the 90s with a time machine and you're going to go back to the 90s to get a job, the resume advice is not going to help you, right? Let's be real.
Yeah.
So be as specific as possible on your resume. And if you take your, like your main resume, right? And you should have a main resume with all your junk on it. And then as you mentioned earlier, tailor that to the specific job you're going for. But if you just take that main resume with all the junk on it, and you tailor all those bullets, make them as specific as possible about like what kind of impact you had at the company, now you've got a whole ton of bullets with all the crap you wanted to say, and you can just literally copy and paste to the next version of your resume that's tailored for that job, and it's still specific. And with that, the specificity doesn't have to be specific to that job and the task in the job because you've got a very tailored bullet for your resume. There's another misconception out there that you have to have a one-page resume. I swear to God, I will smack somebody at a conference if they come to me and say I have to have a one-page resume. I will smack you. Maybe. I don't want to get arrested. But I may smack you. There's a risk. But here's the thing on the one-page resume, and that's why this misconception got out there. Yes, a one-page resume is great, but to get a one-page resume that is showing the impact you can have that's very specific will take you about 2 to 3 months for one job you're applying for. That whole concept came from that approach of like getting as tailored as possible. That takes a lot of iterations. It takes other people helping you. That's not realistic if you got bills due tomorrow, right? What's more realistic is tailor the bullets. Don't worry about one page. I'm not going to read past one page on anyone's resume. I don't care how damn good you are. I'm not reading past a third of your resume.
Right.
I look at your resume as a letter F, and I don't know how this is going to record, so whatever. You know what a letter F looks like. If not, just Google search the middle finger, and you'll figure out what the letter F looks like. So anyway, right, we read it, so basically the resume should have some kind of like very brief summary, like not your life story, not your 27 certifications. I don't care about any of that shit, right? Like tell me something specific, again, to the job, right? So like, for example, let's say you want to be a SOC analyst, right? And you're coming from a nursing background, right? Total career changer. So, career changing nurse, and you could say if you specialize at cardiology or something, a career changing cardiology nurse that can follow a proven process to deliver, to protect data and, deliver a measurable outcome, which is what you would do as a SOC analyst, right? You're going to follow an IR playbook in one of your things usually as one of your tasks. So you're showing them that you can follow a proven process, which in the cybersecurity world, for example, would be an incident response playbook. And you can deliver you can follow that process, whatever that is, and deliver a specific result. So you could run a vulnerability scan, for example, and you could produce a report. And as a hiring manager, I could see, okay, well, you're a nurse, but you're able to follow a process, and we need somebody that can follow processes, especially at the tier 1 level of SOC. And you can deliver an expected outcome from that. You can protect data while you're doing that. Great, right? That shows me your impact like immediately in your summary. I'm like, oh, this person's interesting. Let me read more about them. Now I go down to your experience section, which should be the next section, not your education. I don't care if you're in a college right now, whatever your experience is. Now, if you're taking a career break right now, like something happened, you got laid off, you've had to do Uber driving or whatever to pay the bills. I mean, let's be real. We're all adults here. We know what's happening. Don't put that stuff on your resume though. Put sabbatical and say I chose to take, I got laid off my last job, even if that was 3 years ago, got laid off at the last job, And I've been focused on my self-education ever since. Now, in the interview, if they ask you, like, how you paying your bills, which they legally can't really ask you, so talk to an attorney. But anyways, if they happen to ask you that and you're okay with them asking you that, you could be like, yeah, got laid off, had to pay the bills, I've been, doing some side work, whatever, right? But again, I'm not an attorney. Don't listen to me on legal advice, just like the heart surgery shit. You're screwed if you listen to me on heart surgery. I'm a medic, so I could get you patched up, get you back to somebody that knows a little more about what they're doing. But anyways, the whole thing there is...
But no YouTube heart surgery? Have a YouTube video
I mean, if y'all want it, I'm sure there's somebody that'll volunteer for, if I charge $500, there's always somebody that wants a discount. But definitely can't happen in the U.S. because there's laws here. But we'll do it on somebody's yacht in the middle of nowhere. But I mean, to the resume stuff, right? And we'll dive to networking. Yeah. I mentioned that like 20 minutes ago, probably. But specificity in the resume bullets. I gave that example of somebody I scanned for vulnerabilities versus the bullet that I listed in the PDF document I shared. But that's what you got to do, right? So your main resume, just focus on that. The entire goal is to get it where your resume is a formality and not the thing that draws them in, right? Like your LinkedIn profile should draw them in. Your networking that you've done, and you mentioned the local meetups and stuff. That's a great way, right? To because a lot of jobs are local, and those companies don't usually advertise on job boards because they're small companies, and people can you can always get even if it's like a little volunteer project work. You can always get something through those types of meetups from somebody to get experience for your resume, right? And I think a lot of people, they're always focused on these big companies. I got to make trillions of dollars. There's that douchebag on YouTube, not you, but another guy that's a douchebag on YouTube that tells people, I think the video's probably got 1 million views now. When I looked at it, it had like 900,000. But like telling people you get a GRC analyst job or a job in GRC with no experience, making 6 figures in 24 hours. That's absolute bullshit, right? That doesn't happen, right. But people are like, oh, because that's what they want, right? So sell them what they want, right? Yeah. And of course, he's got a training program. He's selling, whatever. I digress. His program's actually good, right? If you got experience in IT, his program's actually good. I don't remember his name. Starts with a B, Booger, Boyd, something like that. But I know people that have gone through his program. So the training's actually good. But if you're somebody with no experience, it's not a good program for you, number one. And number two, nobody is getting a GRC job in 24 hours making 6 figures. I don't care who you are, unless you have GRC experience, of course. But if you don't have no experience at all, it's not happening for you. If I didn't have any experience, even Ken, that some people consider amazing, I'm just a regular guy, but some people are like, oh, but even me, I'm not going to get a 6-figure GRC job in 24 hours with absolutely no experience in IT or cybersecurity stuff. Right. It's just not realistic, right? Same thing as heart surgery. I don't know if you're old enough to remember those Holiday Inn Express commercials way back in the day, but I'm not going to become a heart surgeon by staying at Holiday Inn Express overnight. The commercial says I will, but the reality is I'm not, right? And if I think that, right, I'm probably going to get criminal charges and lawsuits and all sorts of things, right? So there is a bonus with that if you consider it a bonus, prison time and lawsuits, but otherwise it's not going to happen, right? So I think there's a misconception there on that stuff. So now let's move into the networking, which I swore I was going to get to like 3 hours ago before I started rambling. The networking stuff I mentioned before, right? You go in with a giving mindset. Like, how can I contribute? Whether that's, that just might be you come across a cool article that you think that person's audience might be receptive to, right? Like maybe I find a career article out there that I'm like, oh, this is really good. And I share it with you because I know your audience, a lot of them are career seeking or whatever, right? So something as simple as that is saying, hey, I saw this. Now you have to take your low self-esteem out of the equation when networking. What do I mean? Am I being a jerk? Maybe, whatever. I'd like to tell it like it is because this is the real world and I don't sugarcoat stuff. So the reality is a lot of people, especially at the senior level of cybersecurity, they're not going to respond to your messages on LinkedIn. It's not because they're dicks. Well, some are dicks, but most of them are not dicks. It's just the fact that they either don't check messages because they just have so many coming in that they're just like, I'm not going to check messages. I'm focused on posting and then doing my own business or whatever they're doing. It could be that they get so many messages. I get like 500 to 1,000 a day. Let's be real. You're not getting a response. Honestly, most people don't get a response. I do have that, Top Mate or whatever. I've got some things there. So if you have like a critical question, you're willing to pay like $10 or whatever for it. By the way, I'm not buying a yacht with that money because come on, $10, right? Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
But like, that's a way to get me to respond immediately because that alerts me via email. I'm not going to share my email with any of you because you'll constantly hit me up via email. But in reality, like, people get a lot of messages, right? People have other things going on. People have life going on. Yep. Kids might get sick, whatever. I mean, it's not usually a direct target. I mean, again, there's dicks out there. There's dickheads out there. But with anything, right? There's dickheads everywhere in the world.
Right.
Just driving traffic here in the U.S., you'll deal with dickheads. But like, most people are not out to be a dickhead to you, right? They're not, right? But just because you don't get a response doesn't mean that they're an asshole. You might have to try a different way, which might be just commenting on their post, like uploading to Google Drive, like the PDF that you found or whatever, and posting on there, hey, I found this. I don't know if it's helpful for your audience. I sent you a DM, but didn't get a response, right? And again, if they don't check their comments, which some people don't, then, again, whatever, move on to the next person. Like, there's a lot of people, it's like dating, right? Like, if you ask someone out and they're like, no, or they ignore you, or you walk up to somebody at the grocery store and you're trying to ask them out and they just stare at you, they might be retarded, but also they might just not be interested, maybe they're deaf, right? They didn't hear you. They're trying to read your lips, whatever, like that. Maybe ask another question like, did you hear me, or are you not interested? Like, give me an answer, right? If they just still continue to stare, walk away because they're probably a weirdo, right? So, but it's the same way in this stuff, right? Like, you don't take it personally, right? I mean, just rejection or just, getting ignored or whatever. That's just part of life in general. Happens in everything in life. So I think that's the biggest mistake I think people make with networking is, well, two mistakes, right? Number one, they go in with the gimme, gimme, gimme mindset instead of a how can I give? And number two is they take everything personally. Like, it's not that serious. Like, I remember there was this young woman that, and I'm not shaming her, but she blocked me after I helped her a ton, and she blocked me for whatever reason. I wasn't a jerk or anything like that. But after she blocked me, I feel like I can talk about this thing. Because, anyways, so this person was at a coffee shop. I don't think it was a Starbucks, but a coffee shop. And they asked somebody to watch their laptop. So this is supposed to be a cybersecurity professional. Asked some stranger to watch her laptop while she went to the restroom, an unlocked laptop. And the person was like, can you lock your laptop? I don't really want to be responsible for your stuff, but I can keep an eye on it. But can you at least lock it? That way if somebody, sit down. Like, the person was actually being security conscious and they were not a tech person. And she took it all personal. She was crying on the video and stuff like that. People are so mean, stuff like that. And I was like, the only thing I said in the comments, and she didn't block me right then. It was later. I noticed I was blocked. I was like, whatever. People are weird, whatever, right? Especially after you help them. If you help them a lot, people usually will block you because they got what they wanted out of you. Whatever. Anyways, life is life, right? So I commented on the video. I was like, yeah, maybe people are, mean or whatever, but they probably didn't want to take responsibility for your laptop if somebody ran off with it. Look, if you ask me to watch your laptop, I'm not going to stop somebody from running out the door with it. I'm not going to get in a gunfight just because your fucking laptop, right? It's stupid, right? I don't know you, right? You're a stranger. Now, if it's my wife's laptop, I'm going to get you. But anyways, just kidding. Or am I? But anyways, the point here is I commented just hey, as a security person, and I didn't actually comment. I sent her a DM. I was like, hey, as a security person, you probably don't want to ask strangers to watch your laptop anyways because you don't know who they are, right? You can, right. I know you didn't want to pack everything back up in your little bag and go to the bathroom with it, but it's a different mindset in security, right? My wife calls me paranoid, but I think it's just a general mindset. You're kind of more security conscious in everything you do. It's just a way of life. It's not like a position. It's a way of life. If that makes any sense. But going back to the networking stuff, I've rambled a bit here. But the two mistakes again are you got to go in with a giving mindset. Like, how can I contribute to this person? Because then you become different from everybody else, right? Everybody's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. But if you go in how can I give? Honestly, same thing with dating, right? If I go in, everyone's trying to take, right? So I'm obviously I'm married, so I don't date. I only date my wife. But back when I was single, I always went in with a giving mindset. Because most dudes go in with how can I take from this woman? How can I, get laid as fast as possible type of stuff, right? I'd go in with a giving mindset, how can I, maybe it's just a compliment, right? Oh, those are great, those are nice earrings or whatever, right? A genuine compliment. I wasn't like, those are nice earrings, girl. That's weird, right? And a lot of dudes do it that way. But I went in with a giving mindset, and the same way in cybersecurity to get a career stuff, any career or any business, whatever, it's a giving mindset. How can I help this other person get something. Maybe it's accomplishing a goal. Maybe it's just helping their following, whatever, like that. That's a mistake. And number two is taking everything personally. So as far as networking goes, the spray and pray approach also doesn't work with networking, right? A lot of people, I got to get a lot of connections. No, you don't. You just need some really good connections, right? That starts with clarity of what you want to do. So if you want to be like if you want to work in GRC, yeah, you can follow and connect with me. That's fine. I've got some GRC videos on the YouTube channel. Okay, cool. That's not my area, right? Like I'm not like a GRC analyst working in that role, but I know some, like Christabel Thomas, for example. She's out of Canada. She'd be a great person to connect with and follow. And you're trying to get into GRC. She's got videos on YouTube, her YouTube channel, which is linked over on my channel. And she'd be a good person to DM, like, hey, I got questions or whatever, right? She's helped people get jobs in GRC that had no experience. That's a great person to network with. Networking with Joe Schmo that's VP of Microsoft is not a good person, because there's nothing they can really do for your career because they don't know who the hell you are. And especially at that level of a big tech company, they're not going to, you've got to be in the game like 10, 20 years for them to know who you are and trust you enough to reach out and, make that phone call or text or whatever for you. So for networking, very like know what you want to do first, then find the people doing that and start connecting with them, because they're going to be the best people to give you career advice, not your career counselor, right? I mean, honestly, again, good people, but they've never worked that job, so they're not going to be the best people for you. So that's as far as networking on like social media. I mean, that's the things I recommend, right? Number one is come in with a giving mindset. Number two, of course, well, actually, it should be number one, is get clarity on what you want to do. Find the people that you want to connect with that have done that job or are currently doing that job, because they're going to have the best advice. Number two is, of course, going with that giving mindset. And number three is don't taking stuff personally. Even if you haven't heard from them in like 2 weeks, you send a message, send another message like, hey, don't know if you saw this or if you even check LinkedIn messages, but just, real quick on that, don't ask for a freaking phone call. People are too busy for a phone call. I know you have low self-esteem and you want to get a phone call to feel special and pick my brain and all this. It's not happening. It's just not going to happen. That's just reality. People are too busy. They got families, right? I mean, if I have a choice between spending time with my wife and spending time answering a bunch of LinkedIn messages or getting on a bunch of phone calls, y'all can figure out what the choice is there, right? Let's be real, right? We're all humans. All of you are the same way. I've done a lot of live webinars where people are like, I need a live webinar. Do this. And all these people are like, I'm going to show up. Oh, this is going to be great. Whatever. 3 people show up, because all of you are too busy doing other stuff. So don't expect the reciprocity there, right? Don't expect other people to get on a call with you. It's just not going to happen. It's kind of rude where you're a complete stranger and you're like, I want a phone call with you. I don't know who the hell you are. You're at that point, I'm not saying you're a nobody, right? You're somebody, but you're a nobody to me, because I don't know who the hell you are, right? So like I'll give an example here. And she's phenomenal. So this young woman, she's originally from Nigeria. If I get it wrong and she's listening, forgive me, whatever. But I think she's originally from I'm 99% sure. Anyways, back when I was building stuff for Cybery, she helped, volunteer work, kind of giving back type of stuff to that community. And so we connected on LinkedIn through that. And over the years, she's always, as she's gone and she came to the U.S. and did her master's degree here in the U.S. And we've stayed connected. And, I did a post a long time ago about this. Like, people don't often, they don't check on the mental health of others in this industry. And it's a very taxing industry, especially at what people consider the top. And I'm not saying that I need that check-in, right? And I'm just giving this example because she's always just kind of checked in, like, how you doing? Not from a mental health aspect, right? She's not like, hey, are you on the edge? But it was more of like, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, right? And even that type of stuff with a lot of people, that will help build a relationship too. And so what I'm getting at here is ultimately she needed to get her whatever type of visa to live here permanently in the U.S. We called it a green card back in the day. I don't know if that's appropriate or not. Whatever. I don't know if it's green colored or not, but basically get her essentially her naturalization to live here in the U.S. permanently. Right. So she reached out, asked me to write a letter to Homeland Security for her, which I gladly did. Like, I was like, what does it need to say? And I went in and I did, I don't know, it was probably 2, 3, 4 page letter. It was a long letter. For me, that's a lot of writing. But I made it very, very, very good on exactly what they needed to know, exactly of why she should be allowed to, remain in the U.S. and live here, and and how she would contribute to, they always want to know national security, how you contribute to that. In reality, they just want to know, like, why should we let you, live here in this country? And so I did that without hesitation, right? But she spent years cultivating that relationship. and giving, right? She was always giving, even though I never asked for anything, right? But she was always giving, was just like a, hey, how you doing, right? It doesn't have to be like I mentioned earlier, like finding a report, an article, and writing a white paper and all that. You don't have to do all that stuff. Oftentimes it can just be simple, like it's just human connection, right? It's as simple as like, hey, how you doing? Just checking in on you. Anything I can help you with, anyone I can connect you with or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be dramatic, crazy stuff like here's a $10 million Amazon gift card. No. Right. Well, first off, I'm going to think that's spam anyways, but like, it's the simple things that I think my problem with social media, so I'm older. I'm not going to tell you all my age, but what the 90s were. But anyways, some of you are like, I was born in the 2000s, whatever, kid. Oh
my gosh.
The point here is that social media, I think, because of social media, it's good and bad, right? There's always good and bad with everything in life. I mean, we see that with social media, especially around, the chomos using social media to do their chomo stuff and the rest of us trying to catch them and all that good stuff. But anyways, social media is good because we can network with people we've never actually met, but we've talked to maybe on a Zoom call or something. Like we can connect with people and feel like we've been in the same room with them. Like we go to a conference and we meet them in person, but we've known them for years online. And, so social media is great in that aspect, but I think it also gives especially with all these online gurus trying to sell you their course, it gives you a misconception that everything is like a certain way in life, and we forget the human aspect behind it, if that makes any sense, or if it's confusing. Just if you're in a state where you can smoke some weed, it probably makes sense at that point. But anyways, hopefully some people are laughing besides us now. We're having a good time on this podcast. But the reality is, like, we kind of forget that we're all humans at the end of the day, right? And we all have emotional needs. If you want to learn more about humans, Robert I'll butcher the last name, but Cialdini has a lot of like persuasion psychology books on Amazon, or not a lot. I think he's got 3 or 4, but you can read those and learn a little bit about, kind of how you can converse with humans and do little things, little nuances to negotiate conversations the way you want them to go, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what I'm getting at here is we're all humans, right? The more we kind of focus on cultivating a real relationship with these other people that are really strangers, the more likely they are, if we need something, to like bend over backwards and make a phone call. And, like, for example, when she reached out, I was busy as heck. I had a lot of stuff going on, but boom. She was immediately, I've spotted or put a spot on my calendar immediately of working on that and getting that done. And I asked her, and she's like, I just need it, and I think in the next month or whatever like that. I had it done like within a day. I sent it back. I was like, does this say what you needed to say? She's like, oh, it's perfect, right? So bam. People will bend over backwards for you if you've cultivated that relationship. And I think we've missed that with social media, right? Because back in the day, if I wanted you to help me get a job, like we had to build a relationship, man, and like hang out or something. Right. Like you had to, feel me out, make sure I wasn't a weirdo that was going to come harass the women in the workplace, that sort of stuff. But I think with social media, these people sell you on this pipe dream. We talked about that earlier in the podcast of like everything's going to happen in 24 hours. It's going to be magical and there's no work involved. And like tomorrow, I'm just going to be like, I'm a SOC analyst, and they're going to send me a job offer for something. It's not reality. You got to cultivate those relationships.
When we were talking about resumes and stuff, I think there's just one technique or one tool that a lot of people overlook and miss is like the power of having like your own personal website, blog, GitHub repository and stuff like that when you're trying to apply for jobs. I don't know about you, but when I'm looking to hire someone and I see that they've have their own, like they link to their GitHub or they link to a website where they've created a blog or documentation, or heck, even a YouTube channel where they've documented their journey into the field, that immediately catches my eye. I don't even bother reading their resume at that point. I instantly click and dive into their online presence and their personality. And because a lot of times people don't realize, us hiring managers, we're not just hiring you for what you can do, like the skills you have, the hard skills, but we're hiring you for your personality because we want you to be a good fit with our team. To me, that's almost more important than some of the skills that you can do, because I want to make sure you're going to fit, because I can teach you everything that you need to know to do this job successfully. What I can't teach you is how to get along with the rest of the team I've cultivated and make a good fit. So I want to hear your thoughts on, sharing like a GitHub repository or a personal website, type like that.
I think you nailed it on the head. We're often looking for the right fit. I could train you on any hard skill I need you to get. Literally, I can literally train you on any hard skill because somebody else has that skill. And if I need to bring in a consultant, because I need you to be an expert in Splunk, I'll reach out to the vendor. I'll be like, yeah, we'll pay the 10 grand or whatever. And you come in and you teach, whatever. Like that's easy to do. The soft skills or quote unquote the life skills, which are kind of that personality fit you're mentioning, that stuff I can't train, right? Like if you're a lazy ass, I can't train you to be productive, right? Because you've been a lazy ass because your parents spoiled you. I can't train that stuff. If you're a complainer, I can't train you not to be a complainer. I can recommend books like The Power of Positive Thinking and stuff like that, and free YouTube videos or whatever, right? It's where you can learn that self-talk actually is what attracts the energy, which we'll talk about woo-woo stuff later. But that attracts that energy, which is why you can't get a freaking job because nobody wants a complainer on your team. Because if you complain, then everybody else starts complaining, then nobody gets stuff done. I think on what you were talking about, the websites and all that stuff, that's personal branding, right? I think a misconception there, though, is that you got to go spend a bunch of money, get a website and stuff. I like that you also shared you could do a GitHub. YouTube is free. Even Canva.com. I don't know if they have it on the free plan, but like the paid plan is like $20 a month. So like for $20 a month, you can actually build websites in Canva.
Nice.
And you can even have an example video on that website showing how you could build websites in Canva. So now maybe I'm a startup and I was like, well, we don't really have a cybersecurity job for this person, but she's built a website in Canva and she can build some, I like her visuals. Our marketing team needs some help. We're a cybersecurity company. Let me reach out to her and see, like, are you interested in working with our marketing team? And then we can maybe put you through some training on our product solution that will get you the skills you're looking for, but at the same time, we're getting value from marketing side. So you never know where these things are going to lead, even just general personal branding on LinkedIn. You don't know where that stuff's going to lead. Like, for example, I look for people that are willing to educate and help somebody else.
100%.
Like I said, I grew up very poor. There were some people there was a guy named Bob that we didn't have a lot of food, like, and especially in the wintertime. Like it was like one bag of potatoes would be for the month. And it's, a small bag, right? It was not the big bag, the small bag.
Yeah.
And the cheap potatoes that were already growing mold and stuff on them. So anyways, Bob worked, I'm not going to say the company because I don't know if he'll get in trouble later. He's long retired now, but he worked for a snack cake company. And back then, at least, I don't know if they still have this, but back then, like stores don't want to put a dented or ripped box on the shelf because customers don't want to buy a ripped box or a dented box because they're like, oh, something wrong with it, even if the stuff inside is great. So he would deliberately dent boxes because the drivers could buy the boxes on discount, like a very discounted price. Like it was like maybe 20 cents on the dollar, something ridiculously low. And Bob would like damage stuff on purpose so he could come he would wait for payday and he would spend his own money, him and his wife, just boxes of, and it was not healthy stuff at all, right? But for a kid, man, that was gold. Snack cakes and cookies and all this. I was like, this is heaven. So he would come in the middle of winter, and we had this long, like almost, I don't want to say it was vertical, but almost vertical kind of drive, like very steep, and no money to plow, right? So like snow and ice and stuff. So he would come in his little minivan, his little mom van, and drive as fast as he could to get up the driveway as far as he could, and then basically he'd get stuck, and it'd be snowstorm, all that stuff. And he would get out. This is a pale white dude like me, so he's red cheeks, right, from the cold, and all the stuff like that. And he's coming up one box at a time because he didn't want his kids to have to go out and and deal with the cold. But bringing us food, right? So there was people like Bob that helped me, and that's why I give back. And in the same way, as a hiring manager, I look for people that are willing to give back in some capacity. Like, you got to remember, there's somebody that's one chapter in the book behind you always, right? So like, even if you think, well, all I did today was I set up the Qualys free scanner, and I went through their free training to learn how to use this thing to do a vulnerability scan. That's something that somebody out there has never done. And even someone that's senior level might have, maybe they never did a vulnerability scan. Probably not likely, but maybe they didn't, right? And so you're educating them. You don't have to be on camera, right? A lot of people, when we say like build a personal brand, they're like, I'm scared of camera. Me too. Guess what? I'm an introvert. I know it shocks a lot of people. They're like, no, you're not. No, I am. Trust me. If I have a choice between going to a conference and seeing all of you and reading a book, I'm reading a book in the safety of my home. But anyways, back to personal branding stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It's just like, can you educate other people? Because as a hiring manager, I know then, like, you're different than everybody else at that point, right? Like, I see that you're building your personal brand. You're sharing about whatever it is. You're trying to teach others the thing. I look at you in a different light now because I know that I can bring you on my team and you can train the new person.
Right.
Like, you can't tell me that in a resume. You can't tell me that in a cover letter. Like, that stuff isn't, to your point about kind of the personal branding stuff, a YouTube channel, GitHub, a podcast. I mean, it could be a blog. It could just be that you post on LinkedIn. Could be a combination of all those. Could be, GitHub, I think I said that. But it could be that. Could be a repository like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be fancy stuff at all. In fact, the more ghetto, the better, in my opinion, right? Because that shows me that you're not, that you're like doing this with like nothing, right? You've got no money and you're making this stuff happen. Like someone like that's hungry. And that's another thing, right? I look for someone that's hungry and not like literally hungry. I mean, although a lot of people are literally hungry out there. But I want someone that's like going to come in, and some people call it passion. I think passion is a wrong word in my opinion. But like the hunger, like, again, going back to like the life stuff,
drive.
Right? The drive. That's a great way to say it, man. Like the drive, the grit, like that. Like even if you don't meet all the criteria, if I see on social media, and I've done this before, I've hired people, like I've seen them branding themselves properly, like just hammering out content, and I'm like, all right. And then I had an opening one time for an instructor job, right? Supposed to be somebody with experience, forgive me. But I was like, I could train this person up. Like they got a baseline. They can get this job and they can teach based on, I got to train them on the curriculum, but they can teach this stuff with another senior person in there to answer the questions from a senior person, but they can be like delivering this content, right? And so I reached out to the person. I was like, hey, I don't have they want a SOC analyst like everybody else, right? I was like, I don't have a SOC analyst job, right? I don't have a SOC. So I don't have that. I don't have an operations center. But what I do have is this. I said, and what this will do, I was like, we put the title as cybersecurity instructor. So you have cybersecurity. And I was like, you'll be an instructor, so they'll think you know something for your next job. And I was like, we'll train you on, on the content. We'll make sure you're really good. Like you're going to have a couple different instructors, like training you, senior level people, getting you solid on the content. And then, from there, we'll have you teaching stuff. Again, you're not the lead. We're going to have someone in there with you, whatever, right? But that all started not with a resume. It didn't start with a cover letter. It didn't start with buying some resume writer stuff or whatever. Most of them suck. Anyways, the only good one I've ever found is Katia Dean. So shameless plug to Katia, Katia, and then Dean, Dean. That's how you spell her last name. Don't hack her. Just connect with her. And I think she still offers a resume service, but I think she's expecting a kiddo sometime soon. I think in February maybe. So she may not get back to you right away because obviously, again, family is priority.
Yep.
But she's really good at helping people with their resumes. A lot of people she's helped get hired pretty quickly. So shameless plug to her and her services. If she still even offers them, you might check that out on social media. But she's really, really smart person. She was on my television show when I had it a couple years back. She's on I think I've got that episode on YouTube around resume, stuff like that. Just look up, I think I put her in the title. So anyways, just search Katia Dean on the YouTube channel and you should find it. If not, I'll search for it and find it. But her and Chris Folan, who's one of the people I wrote the book, and then Tia Hopkins as well, wrote the book with. And then Renee also was on that episode, sharing her wisdom about. She's been a recruiter for years in the government space. Anyways, I digress. Personal branding stuff is so important. Again, it doesn't have to be extravagant. You don't need to set up a website or anything. LinkedIn is free. YouTube is free. A podcast is somewhat free. Most of them limit how many episodes you can upload. So I would say like YouTube, and just screen record, or you could just put it all in a document and like walk people through the document. In a screen record. I use Screencast-O-Matic for recording. You can use Loom as well. I like Screencast-O-Matic. I've used it for years. I've got the paid version, which honestly is $20 or $30 for the entire year. You don't need expensive stuff. Like I've literally recorded thousands, well not thousands of courses, but thousands of videos with that stuff, and it's done well. Shameless plug to them. I'm not an affiliate, so if you pay them $20, I won't get $1. But there's a lot of free tools out there to screen record and keep it simple with personal branding, and just literally ask yourself a year ago, what have you learned since then? Or even a month ago, what have you learned since then? Bam, now you've got your content, and start pushing it out. Oh, real quick on LinkedIn profiles. Before you push out content, fix your profile. My God, do not listen to that career counselor. They tell you bad advice. So real quick on LinkedIn, and I don't want to take everyone's time too much. We've gone wild here. But Real quick, LinkedIn profile, 2 most important areas are your headline and your about section. If you looked at your LinkedIn profile as a sales page, entire goal of the sales page is keep someone on it, reading, learning, getting excited, and then buying the thing, right? Yeah, there's some people that are impulse buyers, but most people want to research things a little bit if they're not convinced. So that's why a sales page is, longer usually, and you want to keep them on the page. The longer they're on the page, more likely they are to buy. Taking that same concept from sales and marketing, bam, here into cybersecurity and getting a job. So your LinkedIn profile is a sales page. Your headline should tell them in a single sentence what you do, what you can do for them. It's not where you list, it is where you list cybersecurity analysts, whatever you want to do. But very first thing should be a single sentence. It could be something as simple as, I help companies reduce their cybersecurity risk. Ask me how. Even if you don't know how the hell you're going to do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that gets people to understand what it is that you can do for them. Now, you take that single sentence. So in the headline, after that, you can put like certs that are relevant or job title, whatever keyword, stuffing you want to do. That's fine. If you're bilingual or multilingual, put that because that's another differentiator. But at the minimum, have that single sentence I just gave you. Everyone listening to this, go change your profile to say something like, I help companies reduce cybersecurity risk. Ask me how. And then from there, take that exact sentence.
And for gosh sakes.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and for gosh sakes, put a decent photo on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, it should not be ghetto. You should actually put a photo no matter what. I know a lot of you are like, I'm getting into cybersecurity. I'm a secret hacker. I'm not going to connect with you if you don't have a photo. And that most people are that way, right? Because they think you're a spammer or whatever. So for those, I understand people in other countries may not have the financial resources to get, if you could take one with your phone or if you got a webcam or something, even if it looks pretty ghetto, that's better than nothing. But yeah, fix the photo. It should not be you drunk on the weekend, unless you're selling people a course on how to get drunk in the weekend, right? And in that case, great. But it's, something professional headshot. Doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be an actual professional headshot of like you go to a photographer and pay thousands or whatever. Some of them are just hustlers, man. Like I got photos taken and they're like, oh, there's a fee to get each photo. I'm like, what the hell was I here for? What did I pay originally for? Just that's for my time. I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyways, that's why y'all see the same photo on LinkedIn. I was like, I'm not paying you for all the 1,000 photos you took. I don't like them all. I like that one. But anyways, so headline, number 1. Number 2 spot is your about section. So take that exact same sentence, put it on the very first line of your about section, the headline sentence, the very first line of your about section. That's it for the first line of your about section, nothing else. The second line down of your about section, completely blank. Make it easy to read. Third line down, put I'm also skilled in, or I can also help companies with, and then everything else goes way down. So they have to click that see more option on your LinkedIn to read more about you. So they have to basically expand it out, right? Why do I talk about the first 3 lines there? Because on most devices, that's all they see. So if you got a bunch of text there, I'm not reading shit, right? But if you got a single sentence, that's your headline. If you leave the second line blank and you've got the third line that says like I'm also skilled in, or I've also got experience in, or I can also help companies with, and then you put everything else way down, that forces me, if I'm interested enough, that forces me to click see more to read more about you. Again, going back to keeping you on my LinkedIn page so you ultimately reach out to me about jobs. The last thing I'm going to say on LinkedIn that's important, because we could go through the whole profile, I'm not going to do that. Last thing is just taking those for your resume. Once you get those bullets in place, and so resume and LinkedIn job titles should match exactly. If it doesn't, I immediately think you're a liar. Immediately. Everything on your resume should be the same thing on your LinkedIn. Exactly match. Same thing with the bullets. Once you fix your resume, copy and paste to LinkedIn. Same bullets, same job titles, same dates of employment, all that stuff. If I see any discrepancy as a hiring manager, I'm immediately throwing you in the trash pile. I can't speak for other hiring managers, but whether I consciously or subconsciously think you're a liar, I just think you're a liar, right? I may not be conscious of that thought. I might be like, there's a question on this one I set to the side and I never get back to it. Or I may consciously be like, that doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. This person's being dishonest, right? So make sure everything lines up. LinkedIn, resume. That's one of the biggest problems I see people having, besides headline and about section, is that right there. They don't match them up. They try to, their resume, they tell the truth, and then LinkedIn, they're trying to be like, for example, I used to be a janitor, so I could say this. So on LinkedIn, they're like, sanitation visionary, chief sanitation officer, right? Like, bro, you're a janitor, right? You clean toilets. I clean toilets. I know what it's like, right? It's a shitty job, literally. And, it's like, it is what it is, right? Just own it, right? So your job title is, janitor. Maybe it's sanitation engineer, depending on where you work. My job title was janitor, and it was also someone that people with no lives can harass and bully because they feel like I'm less than them, right? And so that could be the job title, too, if you feel like that. But really, just put the job title and match it up, to your resume, and LinkedIn should match up. So that's my advice on LinkedIn. I've got a free video or a couple free videos where I walk through LinkedIn profiles on the YouTube channel. So if you want more on LinkedIn, more specifics, more detail, more Ken with long videos where I ramble about a lot of life advice, then go to YouTube and check that stuff out.
Absolutely. And, as we land the plane here, what parting, there's been so much wisdom you've bestowed upon us. What parting words of advice do you have just for people that didn't soak up enough information already?
Yeah. So besides the advice of, don't stick your finger in the light sock and that, that stuff you learn as a kid,
that's natural selection.
Yeah, exactly right. We've got to control population somehow.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the biggest piece of advice, and that's why I wanted to wait for kind of the woo-woo conversation till the end here. Biggest piece of advice is you already were born with everything you need, right? Everything you need is within you. Oftentimes we look externally for like validation, especially on social media. Like we see somebody's killing it. We're like, oh my God, I got to learn this thing now. I got to learn that thing. No, you don't. I look at that stuff. I'm like, good for them. I'm not learning that shit. That looks confusing, right? So like you've got everything you need within you already. The more you go within, the more the without will draw stuff to you naturally. And that's it's people that are organized religion. I'm not into organized religion. I used to be back in the day, but I'm not anymore. So organized religion people especially love y'all, but a lot of you have an issue with this, right? Because you believe in the external, whatever you believe in, right? Christian God or Muslims, whatever, right? Whatever your belief is, Hindu, whatever religion you are, a lot of you struggle with this, and you may hate me for this, but that's totally fine. I'm fine, whatever. I send the hate. We'll leave an invisible email address in the description. Send all your hate mail to that. But the reality is, a lot of you struggle because of your belief system, right? Because you've got a certain belief system. You struggle with understanding that a lot of stuff, and if you really look at, I'm going to pick on Christians a little here, so forgive me because I used to be a Christian. So again, I pick on things that I used to be or that I used to do. So if you've ever actually read the Bible, and most Christians have never read the Geneva Bible, which is actually the first English translation of the Bible. It's a difficult read because it's the Old English or the King's English, whatever it was, the King James, the original translation though from Hebrew or whatever. Most people have never read that. I'm not going to go into that on this because that's a long conversation, but you should buy that on Amazon if they still got it up. Read through that. But for the general Christian out there that I'm hoping all of you have actually read the Bible and you don't just listen to your pastor or whatever you call the person you go to church on Sunday with. If you just listen to them, let me just say one part from the Bible, and I forget where it's at. I think in the 2 Corinthians maybe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I haven't touched the Bible in a long time. But basically the gist of it is you're made in the image of God, right? Again, this is Christianity for Muslims out there, Islam people. I love you all. I have no issue with anyone's religion, right? That's your belief. I've got my own beliefs, whatever. But it says in there you're made in the image of God. And so if we take that concept and we apply it to FedEx, you go into FedEx and you make a photocopy, right? So if I write, Dakota's awesome on a piece of paper, blank piece of paper with black ink, Dakota's awesome, and I go in there and I don't change any settings on the copy machine and I don't make it color. If I just press the button, of course they hold money off my credit card, whatever. I think it's $10, whatever. But so it's a $10 copy I'm making initially. After that, it's like 10 cents. But anyways, I make the photocopy. I don't change any settings. When I get the copy out on the other side, for the most part, I've got a photocopy of what I wrote, right? The code is awesome. It's the exact same thing, right? Because I wrote it in black ink. They printed in black ink. It's not color, none of that stuff, right? If you take that concept of you're made in the image of God, that means that you've got, you're basically a photocopy of God, right? And I'll let you interpret that for what it is, right? Because if I've got a paper with all the qualities of the original, that means I've got qualities from the original. So when we take that concept, when we take a step back of, how dare you, he's the devil. When you forget the fact that I'm the devil for a minute, and you just understand that really what I'm trying to say here is that you have everything within you already. You have to tap into that, right? You have to tip into the God, quote unquote God, or again, whatever you believe in, the spiritual within you. That is the key to everything in life. Now, it doesn't mean you can sit on your ass on the couch and do nothing. That just means that the more you tap into it, the more likely you are to have those opportunities come to you. That's why you see a lot of these people that get opportunities coming to them. You're like, oh my gosh, they're so lucky. No, they're not lucky. Like if you look at, for example, there's I forget, someone online, one of these gurus, but basically they had a mentor that said The reason you want to become a millionaire is because of what it makes you as a person, not for the money. Of course, we want to do it for the money. Let's be real. But the person you have to become. So we just take a concept of cybersecurity. The person you have to become to be like an executive in a tech company is a lot different person than the person I was as a janitor, right? There's a progression.
Right.
You have to become a different person. You have to become a different version of yourself. And so if you look within, you the more you look within, you understand that, okay, I need to become a different version of myself. Like maybe I'm a complainer right now. Like we talked about earlier, the complainers. Okay, I need to be more mindful of the complaining. And one easy way to do that is just ask yourself what would, and go to a more senior level of what you like. For example, if you want to be a CISO one day, as you're driving in traffic and all the Karens of the world are cutting you off, and Karens can be male or female or however they gender identify. We all know the Karens, right? We see them on social media videos. We've all dealt with the Karens of the world. And so if you're dealing with the Karens of the world, instead of flipping them off, trying to ram them with your car, shooting them, whatever, just ask yourself in your head, you don't have to say it out loud, what would a CISO do right now, right? What would a VP do right now? What would an executive do? What would a millionaire do? Same thing, you're shopping at the grocery store. How would a millionaire carry themselves in the grocery store? Would they go around slamming people with a shop cart? Some might, right? There's always dicks and everything. But most are going to walk in very calm. They've essentially got all the time in the world for the most part, right? Because they got money to buy their time. Walk in very calm. And you'll notice that, number one, you'll be treated differently in the grocery store by the employees. Like if they're normally like weird with you, you'll be treated differently. Like they'll treat you like you're an executive or something. You'll also notice that like if you're single, you're trying to date, you'll notice that the whatever sex you're attracted to, you'll start to get those types of people coming around you more because you've got less creepy energy because you're changing your own energy, right? And so just that's the simplest way for people to transition is just in their head, think about what you ultimately like want to do. Just pick, like I want to be a millionaire. Okay, great. How would a millionaire respond in this situation? Would they scream and holler? And it takes time. It's not going to you're in traffic right now, cursing someone out. You're like, oh, what would a millionaire do? And now tomorrow everything's peachy. No, there's going to be an asshole tomorrow in traffic, and you're going to have to, over time, you're just going to notice that eventually your mind subconsciously keeps hearing like, hey, what would a millionaire do? Or what would a VP do? Or what would a CISO do? And subconsciously it's like, oh, well, damn, she wants to be a CISO. I got to start changing the outer then. Damn it. Damn. Now she's got to and then the outer starts to, again, attract things, opportunities. You start to realize, have thoughts like, oh, I need to maybe go back to school to, get this or that, to get to that next level. And so that's the woo-woo stuff I was talking about, not to dive into too much, but you have to understand that everything you need is within you already. There's a couple of books. Of course, I never have the damn books with me when I say it, but one book is...
It's okay. Send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you the book names, but I'll say real quick, one of them is The 5 Lessons by Neville Goddard. That's a good one. There's another... so I practice the Silva method. So you can look up online, what is her name? It's the daughter of the Silva dude. His name is Jose Silva, but Laura Silva, I think is her name. So just Google search. Last name is, Laura is Laura, but last name is Silva. So just Google, YouTube search Laura Silva. She's got some videos on her channel on YouTube that are free, walking you through some of the Silva method stuff. Starting with that stuff, right? And again, you may be for those that are in a relationship, you might be in a relationship or with people surrounding you right now that are assholes. So this stuff you may have to do on your own. And that's why I suggested the thing of just mentally saying what would a whatever do in this situation, right? Like CISO or whatever. Because you may not have time or the support system right now to do more of the meditative kind of stuff because you got some asshole what are you doing? Well, oh my gosh, why are your eyes closed, right? You may not have that, right? So if you don't have that support system in place where you can get away and do that stuff, you may have to start with just mentally in your head every second you can think of it, and even write it down if you have to. What would a CISO do in this situation? What would a VP do? For me, it was always easier the VP thing because it's shorter to say, right? I don't have to think about how to pronounce this shit. It's VP. It's easy, right? So that may help you quite a bit. But yeah, 5 Lessons by Neville Goddard. There's probably several books I'm going to recommend for your audience. Again, you don't have to buy any of these books. And in fact, there's one I've got a free PDF. I don't know if you can link that. But I'll share that free PDF with you via email, and you can share it with them. But the whole thing I'm saying here is everything is within you already. you need to go within. Like, you need to literally unplug from the damn social media. Like, if you're not getting jobs right now, forget everything we said for now about resumes and LinkedIn and personal branding and all that shit. Take the next week and find you. Like, literally, get off fucking line. I don't care that you like a YouTube video. I don't care about your fucking Netflix. Unplug all that shit. And literally, even if you just do it for an hour a day, unplug that shit and literally just find yourself. Literally find yourself. Because I think that's like, if you look at a lot of special operations veterans for the U.S. military, a lot of us, we don't like to live in, I mean, I live in a big city now, which is really, honestly, it's really tough for me, right? I mean, I try to get tranquility as much as I can. We like to get out in nature. And a lot of people are like that, especially introverts. Like, you just like to get out in nature because you can find yourself in nature. Because nature has a balance. Nature's balance. I'll give an example real quick. I feed possums, or they're called opossums, but we call them possums for short here in the U.S. They're not the possums overseas that are like the kangaroo-looking things that are cute and cuddly. These look more like rats. But anyways, they're friendly. They're great. They're great pets like cats. Anyways, we've got them in the neighborhood. We've also got stray cats. And the HOA, of course, doesn't like people feeding stray animals. Well, I don't like the HOA. So it is what it is. So I feed the possums, and of course, as part of that, the cats get fed as well. But what I'm going to get with that here is, the example I'm going to give is that one day I looked out at where the food dish is, and there's an opossum eating there and a cat eating there. One from each side of the dish. Each one was waiting for the other one to, get a piece and chew it, and then the other one would go in and get it. I mean, cats are cats. Eventually, the cat was like, I'm not sharing, and whacked it in the face, and the opossum ran off. But at first, nature, right, what I'm getting at, the balance, right? There was a balance. Nature was working with each other, balanced, and everyone gets some, whatever. Humans were like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I want all the chicks. I want all the money. I want to, we take everything, right? Which is why we got global warming. But anyways, I digress. Nature has a balance. That's why people want to get out in nature. But if you don't have that ability, go within, right? Create your own nature within, if that makes any sense. If people are like, that doesn't make any sense, whatever. Like I said earlier, if you're in a state where you can smoke some weed, take some other drugs, it'll probably make sense at that point. Because from what I hear, it'll change your mindset. And a lot of this, you'd be like, oh my God, he's a visionary, whatever. He's a chief sanitation visionary, right? Anyways, I digress. I'm going to shut up now, but hopefully that helps someone out there. I'll share a list of books with you. I'll also share that PDF that's for free out there for everyone. We are writing, I probably can't say this on the pod. I probably can't share that because the publisher might listen to this podcast. But what I was going to try to do is share like a PDF of the book we wrote. I think it was 2 years ago it came out, I think. The Hack the Cybersecurity Interview. Because we're working on the next version right now. But I think the publisher would be mad if I shared a PDF version for all of you.
It's all good.
But unofficially, if any of you ping me on LinkedIn, I may have something for you. And I'm going to say it like that. So anyways, we'll say it like that. Good. If the publisher hears this, whatever. It is what it is. You can scold me later.
And if you guys made it this far in the interview, whether you're listed on the audio version or the video version, I'll make sure and list up all the resources we discussed down description below, and go check them out. Again, Ken, thank you for taking the time to share so much information with all my audience. I really think there's some amazing pieces of wisdom in there, sanitation expert, all that included. No, but seriously, thank you for taking the time on your weekend to come on the channel and share so much great information.
Like I said earlier, just Google search my name you can just Google search my name and that'll pull up LinkedIn, should pull up the YouTube, and probably some other stuff, maybe some hate mail. Who knows what's out there these days? But yeah, that's the best way to find me.
Absolutely. Again, we'll make sure and have all your resources linked up down in the description below. Thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, keep learning.